Good evening. Tonight, we leave behind the noise of the modern world and travel back more than 700 years. To a quiet little village somewhere in medieval England. The sun has not yet climbed above the rolling hills. A cool mist hangs over the fields. The only sounds are birds beginning their morning songs, and the distant crow of a rooster welcoming another ordinary day. As you settle into a comfortable position, allow your breathing to become slow and steady. There is no need to hurry. Tonight, we are simply visitors, watching the peaceful rhythm of a forgotten world. Imagine yourself standing on a narrow dirt road. The ground beneath your feet is damp from last night's rain. Small wooden cottages line both sides of the road. Their roofs are covered with straw. Thin streams of gray smoke drift gently from their chimneys. The air smells of wet earth, burning firewood, fresh hay, and something else. A smell that would surprise almost every modern visitor. It is strong, heavy, and impossible to ignore. This smell comes from the people themselves. Not because they were careless, and not because they disliked being clean. Their lives were simply Most peasants lived in very small homes. Many families shared a single room. Parents, children, sometimes even grandparents, all sleeping close together. Furniture was simple. Perhaps a rough wooden table, a few stools, a bed filled with straw. The floor was not covered with smooth stone or polished wood. Instead, it was packed dirt. Every rainy day brought more mud inside. Every winter brought cold winds through tiny cracks in the walls. Keeping a house perfectly clean was almost impossible. But people tried. Every morning began before sunrise. Not because they wanted to, but because survival demanded it. Fields needed tending. The farmer slowly sits up. His clothes are the same ones he wore yesterday, and the day before, and perhaps many days before that. Most peasants owned only one complete set of clothing. Making cloth required enormous amounts of work. Wool had to be collected, washed, spun into thread, woven by hand, then carefully sewn into clothing. Replacing worn clothes was expensive, so garments were worn again and again, until they could barely be repaired. Naturally, the fabric absorbed sweat, smoke from fireplaces, mud from the fields, and every smell of daily life. There were no washing machines, no scented soaps, no bottles of perfume waiting in a nearby shop. Cleaning clothing was difficult. Water had to be carried by hand. Firewood had to heat it. Soap was rare. Every wash meant hours of hard work. For many families, there were simply more urgent tasks. As the farmer steps outside, the village slowly awakens. A cow calls from its wooden shelter. Geese wander freely across the muddy path. A dog stretches lazily beside a doorway. Children rub sleep from their eyes. The smell of animals fills the cool morning air. Today, like yesterday, will be another day of endless work. And by sunset, the farmer's clothes, hands, hair, and skin will carry the story of everything he has touched. The earth, the animals, the smoke, and the sweat of honest labor. But this is only the beginning of our journey. In the next chapter, we will discover why even bathing was surprisingly uncommon, and why staying clean was far more difficult than most people today could ever imagine. So, close your eyes once more. Take another slow breath, and let the quiet village fade gently into the morning mist. The first light of morning now stretches gently across the fields. The village has fully awakened. Doors creak open one by one. Wooden buckets are lifted. Heavy footsteps echo softly along the muddy paths. Before anyone can even think about washing, there is another problem to solve. Water. Today, clean water flows with the simple turn of a tap. In medieval England, every drop had to be earned. Some families walked hundreds of steps to reach the village well. Others relied on a nearby stream. Each bucket felt heavier than the last. Water was precious. Not because it was rare, but because carrying it demanded time and strength. Every trip meant less time for farming, less time preparing food, less time repairing tools. Every minute mattered. Imagine lifting 2 heavy buckets, walking through thick mud, before the sun has fully risen. Now imagine doing that several times each day. Not for a bath, but for cooking, drinking, making bread, feeding animals, cleaning dishes. By the time those essential tasks were finished, very little energy remained. A full bath often became a luxury. Not because people disliked cleanliness, but because survival always came first. Warm water was even more difficult. Every bath began with collecting firewood, then lighting a fire, then waiting, sometimes nearly an hour, for a large iron pot to heat. Only after all that work could warm water be poured into a wooden tub. Imagine spending half your morning preparing a single bath, only to wake the next day and repeat the entire process again. For most farming families, that simply wasn't practical. Instead of taking full baths every day, many people chose something simpler. They washed their hands, their faces, sometimes their feet. These quick washes helped remove dirt after long hours in the fields. It wasn't perfect, but it was often enough to feel refreshed before another day of work. Cleanliness still mattered. It simply looked different from what we expect today. A nearby river might seem like the perfect place for a bath. But rivers brought their own dangers. The water could be icy cold. Strong currents hid beneath the surface. In some places, the same river supplied water for people and animals. So even natural water was not always as clean as it appeared. Choosing to bathe there was not always simple. It depended on the season, the weather, and the condition of the river itself. As the sun begins its slow journey toward the horizon, the farmer returns home. His boots are covered in mud. His clothes carry the smell of smoke, soil, and a long day's work. Not because he ignored cleanliness, but because every ounce of his strength was spent simply staying alive. And tomorrow, the same quiet routine will begin again. In our next chapter, we'll step inside the peasant's home to discover how smoke, crowded living spaces, and farm animals added yet another layer to the familiar scent of medieval life. Until then, close your eyes. Take one slow, gentle breath, and let the village grow quiet once more. The long day in the fields has finally come to an end. The last rays of sunlight disappear behind the rolling hills. One by one, families return to their cottages. The air outside grows cooler. Inside, a small fire is already burning. It is not only a source of warmth. It is the heart of the home. The fire cooks supper. It dries damp clothing. It gives light after sunset. Without it, life through a medieval winter would have been almost impossible. Yet every comfort came with a quiet cost. The smoke. Many early cottages had no proper chimney. Instead, smoke drifted upward, searching for tiny holes in the roof made of straw. Some escaped. Much of it remained inside. Hour after hour, day after day, the smoke settled onto wooden walls. It darkened the ceiling. It clung to blankets, to hair, to clothing. Even after stepping outside, its scent followed wherever people went. Over the years, the smell of wood smoke became part of everyday life. Not unpleasant to those who lived there. Simply familiar. Supper was simple. Perhaps a bowl of vegetable stew. A piece of dark bread. Maybe a little cheese if the family was fortunate. The meal was eaten quietly. Everyone was tired. Children leaned against their parents. The fire crackled gently. Outside, the village slowly disappeared into darkness. There was no electricity. No glowing screens. Only candlelight. And the sound of the wind outside. During cold winters, animals often stayed very close to people. Sometimes in an attached shelter. Sometimes separated by only a thin wooden wall. Their warmth helped families survive freezing nights. But animals brought familiar smells with them. Cows, goats, chickens, sheep. Their scent mixed with smoke, damp straw, and muddy boots left by the door. To modern visitors, the smell would seem overwhelming. To medieval villagers, it simply smelled like home. Wool clothing absorbed every scent around it. Smoke from the fire. Rain from the fields. Sweat from long hours of work. Unlike modern fabrics, wool was thick, heavy, and slow to dry. Clothes were carefully repaired again and again. Replacing them was far too expensive. Each patch, each stitch, told the story of years of hard work. The clothing protected its owner, but it also carried the memory of every season. The fire slowly burns lower. The village grows silent. Only the distant hoot of an owl and the gentle whisper of the wind remain. Tomorrow, the smoke will rise once again. The animals will wake. The fields will call. And another ordinary day will begin. In our next chapter, we will discover what medieval peasants actually ate, and how their simple diet shaped their health, their daily lives, and even the way they smelled. Good night. And let the quiet darkness of the medieval countryside carry you gently into sleep. Morning returns once again. A pale golden light slowly spreads across the fields. The village awakens, just as it did yesterday. And just as it will tomorrow. For a medieval peasant, life follows the rhythm of the seasons. There are no weekends. No holidays for most ordinary workers. Only the steady cycle of planting, growing, harvesting, and preparing for winter. Before a long day of labor, everyone needs something to eat. But breakfast is nothing like the meals we know today. The first meal is simple. A bowl of warm porridge, made from oats or barley. Perhaps a small piece of coarse bread. Fresh milk, if the family owns a cow. Sometimes only water. Sugar is almost unknown to ordinary villagers. Coffee has not yet reached Europe. Tea is still many centuries away. The food is plain, but it fills an empty stomach before hours of hard work begin. Every spoonful provides precious energy. Nothing is wasted. Bread is the foundation of nearly every meal. Not the soft white bread found in modern bakeries, but dense, dark loaves made from rye or barley, sometimes mixed with whatever grain was available. Alongside the bread comes a simple stew. Cabbage, leeks, onions, beans, turnips, whatever grows in the village garden. The same ingredients appear again and again, week after week. Meals are repetitive, but dependable. And in uncertain times, dependability is a blessing. Hours pass beneath the warm afternoon sun. The farmer works without complaint. Digging, planting, harvesting, repairing fences. Every movement demands strength. Sweat gathers beneath heavy wool clothing. Dust clings to damp skin. By evening, the familiar scent of smoke, earth, animals, and honest labor follows him home once again. For medieval peasants, hard work is simply part of life. Most families grow at least a small garden. Fresh herbs add flavor to otherwise simple meals. Parsley, sage, thyme, mint. These herbs make food more enjoyable. Some were also believed to freshen the breath or ease minor illnesses. Although they could not remove every odor, they offered small comforts in everyday life. Nature provided both food and simple remedies. As darkness settles over the village, the family gathers once more around the fire. The meal is small. Conversation is quiet. Everyone is tired. Tomorrow promises another day exactly like today. Yet there is comfort in routine. The warm fire, the familiar faces, the simple food, and the knowledge that, for one more day, the family has enough to eat. The fire slowly fades into glowing embers. Outside, the night is calm. The fields rest beneath the moon. And so do the villagers. But while food gave them strength, it could not protect them from sickness. In our next chapter, we will quietly explore the illnesses, simple remedies, and everyday challenges that shaped the lives of medieval peasants, and how these hardships also affected their appearance and scent. So, take one more slow breath. Let your thoughts drift like the evening mist, and allow the peaceful medieval countryside to carry you gently toward sleep. Another quiet morning arrives. The rain has washed the dust from the narrow village paths. The air feels fresh, cool, and peaceful. Yet beneath this calm landscape, life remains uncertain. A small cough, a fever, or even a tiny cut on the hand could become a serious problem. There are no modern hospitals. No antibiotics. No pharmacies waiting just around the corner. For medieval peasants, health depended on experience, nature, and a little hope. Most villages had someone known for understanding herbs. Perhaps an elderly woman. Perhaps a local healer. Years of observation had taught them which plants might ease pain, calm a cough, or soothe an upset stomach. Bundles of rosemary hung drying from wooden beams. Mint grew beside the cottage. Sage, thyme, and chamomile were carefully gathered during warmer months. Some remedies truly helped. Others offered comfort more than cure. But every family relied on them. When illness entered a home, life slowed. A mother sat quietly beside her child. A father returned early from the fields. The fire burned throughout the night. Warm broth simmered slowly. Prayers were whispered in the darkness. Sometimes, the sick recovered within days. Sometimes, they did not. Each family understood that life could change with surprising speed. Even without modern science, people still valued simple cleanliness. After working in muddy fields, many rinsed their hands, their faces, sometimes their arms and feet. Not every day was the same. Some weeks allowed more time for washing than others. Their lives were shaped by the weather, the harvest, and the endless demands of survival. Cleanliness was a goal. Time was the challenge. Faith was woven into everyday life. Church bells marked the passing of time. People gathered not only for worship, but also for comfort. In times of sickness, communities came together. Neighbors shared food. They helped with harvests. They cared for children when families struggled. Life was difficult, but no one faced every hardship alone. As darkness settles over the village once again, the fires burn low. The fields grow silent, and tired families drift into sleep, ready to greet another uncertain tomorrow. In our next chapter, we will follow the changing seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, and discover how each one brought its own smells, hardships, and quiet moments to the lives of medieval peasants. Until then, breathe slowly, relax your thoughts, and let the peaceful rhythm of the medieval countryside carry you gently into a restful sleep.